The greatest prison has no iron bars, but is born of desire dressed in illusion. Think about that for a moment. The strongest prison in the world isn't made of metal or concrete. It's built within our minds, brick by brick, with our desires and dreams. When we look at someone we love, do we see the real person or just what we want to see? Franz Kafka, one of the world's greatest writers, discovered something frightening about love. He realized that often when a man says, "I love you" to a woman, he's not loving the real woman, but rather an image he's created. It's as if you're in love with a ghost, with an idea, and not with the real breathing, feeling person. This is a secret few have the courage to face. A secret that can forever change the way you understand love. Kafka, in his letters and writings, revealed that love can be less of an encounter and more of a projection. When seeking the feminine, men often see not the real woman, but rather the image they construct for themselves. This is a silent wound that affects everyone. If you want to delve into this dark and liberating truth, subscribe now and like to continue receiving profound reflections. Who was Franz Kafka? He lived a long time ago in the early 1900s and was a man who wrote strange and profound stories. But beyond his famous books, he wrote thousands of love letters. Letters to women like Felice Bauer and Milena Jasenska. In these letters, we can see something interesting happening. Kafka loved these women madly, but it seemed he loved the idea of them more than who they actually were. Imagine you draw a portrait of someone you love, but instead of drawing the person as they are, you draw them as you wish they were. More beautiful, more perfect, more like your dreams. This is what Kafka realized we do in love. We create an improved, idealized version of the loved one, and then we fall in love with this drawing, not the real person. This discovery isn't just about Kafka or the past. It's about you, about me, about all of us. Every time we look at someone with the eyes of love, we risk seeing only what we want to see. It's like wearing magic glasses that transform reality into fantasy. The problem is, sooner or later, these glasses break, and reality emerges. And then comes the pain. Few realize that the root of romantic illusion lies in excessive expectations. Men project onto women the promise of redemption, healing, and completeness, but fail to see the fragile and imperfect humanity that also resides within them. Have you ever wondered why we feel so sad when someone we love doesn't act as we expected? It's because we create enormous expectations. We expect our loved one to be almost like a superhero or a fairy godmother in our lives. That they will save us from loneliness, heal our sadness, and make us feel complete. Kafka saw this clearly. He noticed that men often expect women to be magical beings, not real women, with flaws, bad days, and problems of their own, but rather angels, muses, saviors. It's as if the man is saying, "You will fill the void I feel inside. You will make me happy forever." But no one can carry that weight. No one can be the cure for another person's loneliness. That's too heavy a responsibility. And the most interesting thing, almost no one realizes they're doing it. People think they're in love, when in reality they're just projecting their deepest desires onto someone else. It's like playing a movie of your dreams on the wall and thinking the wall is the movie. This blindness creates relationships fraught with pain, disappointments, frustrations, abandonment. Love becomes a stage for disillusionment, where each person demands of the other what they can never give. Write in the comments if you've ever felt this burden in your relationships or what you're seeking to understand about love right now. When we love the image and not the person, we pay a high price. It's like building a house on sand. Sooner or later, everything collapses. First comes the disappointment. One day, our loved one does something that doesn't match the perfect image we've created. They make a mistake, get angry, show weakness, or are simply human. And we're shocked. How could you do that? We think, as if we've been betrayed. Then comes the frustration. We try to change the person, mold them to fit our ideal image again. If you truly loved me, it would be different, we say. But we're asking for the impossible, for a real person to become a fantasy. Finally, abandonment often comes. When the gap between dream and reality becomes too great, many choose to give up and look for someone else. They start all over again, with new illusions, a new cycle of pain. Kafka lived this. He fell in love, was disappointed, tried to change his partners, and in the end, he was alone. Not because he didn't love, but because he loved an illusion that no real woman could satisfy. Think of Kafka writing endless letters to Felice Bauer. Words that attempted to touch her heart, but in reality spoke to her own fears and needs. Love became a labyrinth, not an encounter. Let's learn more about this story. Franz Kafka met Felice Bauer in 1912 at a friend's house. They talked for only a few hours, but it was enough for Kafka to begin to form an image of her in his mind. Soon after, he began writing letters. Lots of letters. For 5 years, Kafka wrote hundreds of letters to Felice. Long, profound, and filled with emotion. In these letters, he spoke of his fears, his insecurities, his dreams. He talked about his work as a writer, his trouble sleeping, his desire for a different life. The most curious thing, they met in person only a few times. The Kafka Felice knew was mostly the one from letters, and the Felice Kafka loved was mostly the one he imagined while writing. They were engaged twice but never married, because when they met in real life, Kafka realized that Felice wasn't exactly what he imagined. She wasn't the perfect muse who would save his life. She was just an ordinary woman with her own dreams and limitations. In his letters, Kafka created a labyrinth of words and fantasies, but he failed to create a true encounter. He was more in love with the idea of love than with the real woman named Felice. Illusion arises because human love is permeated by loneliness. Man desires woman to be the mirror that confirms his existence, but woman is not a mirror. She is an abyss. She is otherness. Pain lies in the clash between the created ideal and the naked reality. Why do we create these illusions in love? The answer is profound and a little sad. Because we fear loneliness. Because within each of us there is a void, a space that seems to be begging to be filled. When we love someone, we often expect that person to tell us, "You matter. You exist. You have value." We want our loved one to be like a magic mirror that reflects the best version of ourselves. But here's the problem Kafka discovered. The other person isn't a mirror. They're a universe completely different from our own. They have thoughts we'll never know, feelings we'll never fully understand, secrets and mysteries we'll never fully unravel. Kafka used the word otherness to describe this. Otherness means being other, being different. The person we love is always, on some level, a mystery to us, an abyss we cannot fully cross. The pain of love comes from this shock. We want the person to be our mirror, but they are an abyss. We want them to confirm our fantasies, but they have their own reality. And when that reality appears, naked and raw, we often don't know how to deal with it. In society, this myth is fueled. Cinema, literature, and fairy tales sustain the image of the savior woman, the eternal muse. And when someone tries to live outside this illusion, they are called cold, insensitive, and incapable of love. If this part resonated with you, leave a comment, mirror, so that we can reflect together. The hardest part is that our society doesn't help us overcome this illusion. Quite the opposite. From a young age, we're fed stories that reinforce this myth of perfect love. In movies, the hero always finds the perfect woman who transforms his life. In fairy tales, the prince's kiss awakens the princess, and they live happily ever after. In songs, we hear about loves that save, that heal, that complete. These stories are beautiful, but they create unrealistic expectations. They make it seem like there's a magical love out there, waiting for us. A love without conflict, without disappointment, without the hard work of accepting the other person as they truly are. What if someone tries to live a more realistic love? What if someone says, "I love this person as they are, with their flaws, without expecting them to save me"? Often this person is seen as cold, as someone who doesn't know how to truly love. Kafka struggled with this. His view of love was considered strange and pessimistic, but he was simply trying to see beyond the illusion, trying to find a truer, if less romantic love. The real risk is losing yourself by seeking another as a remedy for your own loneliness. It's accepting a life of emotional dependence, where love doesn't liberate, but imprisons. What is the greatest danger of this love illusion? It's not just suffering for love, or being disappointed. The greatest danger is losing yourself in the process. When we seek another person as a remedy for our loneliness, as an answer to our doubts, as meaning for our life, we are placing our happiness in the hands of someone who cannot carry it. It's like handing over the keys to our house to a stranger and saying, "You are now responsible for my happiness." This creates a dangerous emotional dependence. We are at the mercy of another person's moods, decisions, and limitations. Love, which should be a space of freedom, becomes a prison. We become trapped in the need for approval, attention, and constant confirmation that we are loved. Kafka saw this happen to many people around him. He saw marriages where husband and wife drained each other emotionally, where no one was truly free to be who they were, and he feared this more than anything. Perhaps that's why he never married, despite loving several women deeply. Kafka shows us that the solution isn't to give up on love, but to embrace it without illusions. The feminine is neither myth nor salvation. It's a human encounter. When a man stops seeking a woman as an answer and sees her as a presence, a less romantic but more genuine love is born. After all this reflection, you might be asking yourself, so love is impossible? Should we give up on it? Kafka's answer would be, no. The solution is not to give up on love, but to transform it. The first step is to abandon illusions. It's accepting that the person we love isn't perfect, isn't the answer to all our questions, isn't the cure for our existential loneliness. They're just a human being, like us. The second step is learning to see the other as a presence, not as an answer. Loving someone isn't expecting them to complete or save us. It's simply valuing their presence in our lives, with all the good and the difficult that they bring. Kafka invites us to a more mature love. A love that doesn't seek an impossible fusion with the other, but a respectful encounter between two different people. A love that doesn't try to transform the other into what we want, but accepts the other for who they truly are. This love is less romantic, less magical than the one we see in movies, but it's more genuine, and ultimately, more capable of bringing real, not illusory happiness. The danger is not in loving too much, but in loving the image and not the person. Now I want to hear from you. How do you feel about this revelation? Share your experience in the comments. Continue exploring this reflection by watching the video on the card. If this content brought light to your shadows, please like and share. We've reached the end of this profound journey into love and its illusions. What Kafka taught us can be summed up in one sentence. The danger lies not in loving too much, but in loving the image and not the person. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you been disappointed by someone because they didn't act as you expected? How many times have you felt misunderstood by someone who claimed to love you? Perhaps in both cases, the problem wasn't the love itself, but the illusions surrounding it. True love begins when we set aside our fantasies and accept the other person as they truly are, with their flaws, their limitations, their humanity, not as a magical being who will solve our problems, but as a companion on our journey, as imperfect and as searching as we are. This is a truth that may seem harsh at first, but it brings freedom. Freedom to love without the weight of impossible expectations. Freedom to be loved for who you are, not for what someone imagines you to be. Now I want to hear from you. What did you feel after listening to this reflection? Did it touch on any wounds or bring some light to your life? Share your experience with the illusions of love in the comments. And don't stop there. Continue exploring this topic by watching the video on the card. There we'll delve even deeper into this reflection, with practical examples of how to build more genuine, less illusory relationships. If this content sheds some light on your shadows, please like it and share it with someone who might benefit from this reflection. Together, we can build a deeper and more real understanding of love.